What up? What up? What up? What up? It's your boy Kev on stage. I am going live to see can we have a rational conversation about Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. Please, if you're not busy, join. If you're at work, you should be doing something more productive with your time. Join. If you're rational, join. Okay? Because sometimes if you're not rational, then don't join. Okay? Because I don't even know how it's possible to have this conversation. But I was thinking about it last night, and I thought I would give it a shot. I would give it a shot because here's the reason I want to give it a shot. I just want to enjoy the WNBA as I have for. And I know I'm asking a lot. I know it's highly unlikely, but I just want to enjoy the WNBA like I do other sports, where it's just mostly about the athletic part. Now I know that's not possible just yet. I don't know how we get there. Okay. Uh, but I would like to try. Can we try? We can try. What is life without trying? All right. So here's what I want to start with. And if it just goes all the way left, I'll shut it off and I'll finish watching Samurai Champloo. Okay. If it go left, I got about 10 more episodes of Samurai Champloo. I will watch that and I will take me a nap. That's it. All right. Here's where I want to start. Now, I have a couple thoughts. First, I want to say this. And this is just my thought. And I'm curious if you agree or not agree. I believe that, and I've seen this said before, so I'm not alone in this thought. I believe a lot of the Caitlin Clark Angel Reese conversation resulting discourse is tremendously based on how you see yourself and how you see either Black women or white women, right? If you're a Black man and you see Black women one way, you think one way. If you're a white man, you see white women one way, you think one way, or vice versa. Now, I've always pretty much paid attention to the majority of major sports: football, basketball, baseball, NBA, WNBA. I have not paid close attention to the WNBA regular season since its inception. I'm always kind of aware who won the championship, especially when the Storm were winning the championships, because I always follow Seattle sports. And for a good period of time there, the Storm were the only team in Seattle winning championships, well before the Seahawks won theirs. And obviously the Sonics have been gone. But before then, they had won a championship in like the 70s, I believe. But they hadn't been competing for championships. But the Storm, I believe they've won 4. So I'm always kind of been aware of WNBA discourse, at least a champion. I knew the Aces won the last 2 years. I think this, if I'm not mistaken, the Storm last one in 2020. Of course, when Maya Moore was hooping, I was aware that she was hooping, followed her at UConn. Shamika Holtzclaw was my favorite college player of all time when she was at Tennessee. Then Candace Parker, all that stuff. But I hadn't been tweeting about the WNBA. I checked my Twitter. My last tweets were 2 Storm players years ago. So anyway, but obviously Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese's rivalry and star has translated to more eyeballs on the WNBA than there were, at least that I've seen. And I mean like on my timelines. I don't remember outside of activism, the WNBA athletes were first and way more vocal about almost every issue when it comes to activism than any major sport that I can remember. Black Lives Matter, George Floyd, they were first that I can remember. So I'm talking about my perspective. I'm not talking about yours. I'm talking about from my point of view. And I also was saying this early in the WNBA season. I don't remember a lot of WNBA games on the channels that I was searching for prior to this season. Some of the WNBA people who follow the sport were saying that you had to watch on League Pass. There were a lot of games on tape delay and all that type of stuff, or on channels that I didn't have, like Ion. But I remember when the WNBA first started, it was on network television. The playoffs I've seen, the regular season hasn't been as prominent. So anyway, now here's the thing that I think. Let me start off by saying this, right? I first heard about Caitlin Clark, I believe it was her sophomore year. I remember just on my timeline, people were like, yo, this girl from Iowa I remember she was shooting deep threes, and she was going for like 30 or 40. If I don't remember, I was like, man, this girl from Iowa is cooking, and she was pulling from deep, and it was like a lot of deep threes. Those clips were going viral. So I was like, yo, man, this Iowa girl. And I don't remember Iowa being a national powerhouse women's collegiate team. I of course, there's Tennessee back in the day. UConn has kind of always been there. Stanford, Baylor, of course, South Carolina since Don came, Notre Dame. Those are like the ones that I remember that were kind of always in the mix of the championships. I don't know if I'm forgetting anybody, but I feel like those ones were winning the majority of the championships after UConn had won like a lot in a row. I remember when I was young, it was either UConn or Tennessee. It seemed like every year. But then as of late, South Carolina, of course, LSU. But I don't remember Iowa ever. I think Kim Mulkey went from Baylor to LSU, and Kim Mulkey's always been a very big personality. So I remember her. I think she was at Baylor. If I'm not mistaken, Brittany Griner won when she was at Baylor. Oh, I do remember Texas A&M won one. Sydney Colson was there. But I don't remember Iowa ever. So I remember hearing this white girl from Iowa was hooping. I remember hearing about Paige Beckers when she was coming out of high school. And Oregon too. I remember Sabrina when she was at Oregon. I don't think they ever won a championship, if I'm not mistaken. Y'all can correct me if I'm wrong. But I remember Oregon. Sabrina went there, and Sedona Price, she went viral during the pandemic. She's the one that I remember highlighting the discrepancy between the men's NCAA locker room weight room situation and the women's. It was like they just kind of threw the women in somewhere. And Sabrina was on. I followed her on TikTok for a long time. I think she's playing at TSU now with Haley Von Liff, if I'm not mistaken. But I don't remember Iowa. So I remember hearing about Caitlin Clark before Iowa. And then at that time, it was like true hoop heads. And it was always like, yo, this white girl, I follow a lot of black people, and white girls is not a derogatory term, nor was it used derogatory. It was like, yo, this white girl from Iowa is hooping. She's shooting deep threes. She plays like Steph. Like she's scoring a lot of points. She might break the record. It was this like conversation. And it was no negativity at all. It was just basketball appreciation of Caitlin Clark. And I remember Caitlin Clark was talking trash too. She was doing this, and I remember she had waved off, if I'm not mistaken, it was Raven Johnson. She had waved her off, and that went viral. She used to do this a lot, or when she would score, like she was really braggadocious, and it was cool. Like it was like, oh, this girl's hooping. It was like, yo, this is dope. It was nothing race related that I ever saw with my own eyes. Nothing race related. It was an appreciation of her playing ability, her shooting ability, her playmaking, and her scoring, and her like braggadociousness. But nobody had brought race into it. And then I remember Angel Reese, Flau'jae came on the scene, and they was like, I remember watching them like, yo, these girls from LSU are balling. And so Angel Reese and LSU came on my radar. That's actually, I found out that Kim Mulkey was at LSU. I didn't know she switched jobs. So I was like following them. I was like, yo, I like this girl, Angel Reese. I like Flau'jae. You know what I'm saying? They had some good hoopers. Okay. And then, and Haley Von Liff. She was at Louisville. And then LSU played Iowa. I don't believe it was for the national championship. I think it was the game before the national championship. If I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong. I think LSU beat South Carolina that season they won. I think that was Aaliyah Boston's last season. Did LSU beat South Carolina? I'm legit asking because I know they played Iowa, but I think it was the semifinals of the women's Final Four. Was it the national championship? Did LSU beat? Did LSU beat South Carolina for the semifinals? Oh, I got it mixed up. Okay. LSU beat South Carolina for the semifinals, and so Caitlin did play in the national championship two years in a row. Okay, that's right. Because I remember thinking if LSU beats, y'all right. Okay, I remember thinking if LSU beats South Carolina, they're probably going to win the national championship, or it's going to be a good game. Ah, that's right. The ring thing with Angel Reese. Okay, my bad, y'all. LSU did play Iowa for the national championship the year before last. Angel Reese had a good game, and she went viral because she did this to Caitlin Clark, and she did this. And that's when I remember people saying, oh, wait, Iowa beat South Carolina? Am I tripping? Okay, my bad, y'all. I'm 40 plus. Iowa beat South Carolina. That's right. That's right. Okay, my bad. National championship 2 years ago, Angel Reese goes viral for this. And the moment that happened, at that time, I still was like, yo, this is great. She gave Caitlin Clark a taste of her own medicine. Caitlin Clark will be back next year. I just thought it was super competitive. This is like while I'm watching the game. I remember I was on the road. I think I was in South Carolina when this happened. And Angel did this. She pointed to her ring. Flaw J and them was super hyped. They was in the locker room. It was super lit. And within the 24 to 48 hours, our members, commentators were saying Angel Reese was classless. I remember hearing Angel Reese is classless. Why would she do that to Caitlin? Blah, blah, blah. Keep it on the court. And that's when I was like, hold up, man. Because that often happens with black and white athletes. They are often categorized very differently. If Tom Brady yells at you on the sidelines because of a bad play, he is passionate. If Des Bryant yells at you on the sidelines or Odell Beckham Jr. yells at you on the sidelines, he is losing control. He has a temper. And even it's not even negatively impacted. They won't say white receivers are fast. It's always like he's sneaky athletic, right? It's just like, and they always compare white receivers to other white receivers instead of the player that is most like them. So it's not uncommon that happened. But I remember at the moment, that's for me when race came into it, when I was like, it wasn't like Caitlin wasn't a braggadocious player. And Angel was doing what Caitlin had did to others, talking trash. And then it became race-based. And then Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark shot up even more. A lot of black people found out about Angel Reese either during that play or afterwards. Jill Biden invited Iowa to the White House, even though they lost. And this is where I'm a black person, right? And here's what I think is happening a little bit. And this is why I wanted to have a rational conversation. Black people, we feel, and maybe white people too, I can't speak for them, but we feel, and I'll speak for myself, and I'll speak for us. We felt, at least on my timeline, an immense urge to protect the LSU team, because that LSU team was black girls, weave, braggadocious. Flaw J's a rapper. They are not quiet. They remind me of my nieces. That's why I love that LSU team. My nieces are big, big personalities, braggadocious, long weave, bust downs, lashes. And that's how that LSU team was. That's why I was like, oh, they a good time. And when Jill Biden invited Iowa to the White House, I was like, and a lot of black people were like, yo, why are you inviting the losing team to the White House? Like, nobody thought to invite South Carolina to the White House. They like you don't invite the losing team to the White House, right? But Jill Biden's white, Caitlin Clark's white. The majority of the Iowa team is white, not the entire team, but the majority. I think Hannah Stokey is black. Hannah Stokey, Kate Martin, Caitlin Clark are the only players I can think of off the top of my head. But obviously, Iowa is a very white place. So that's when a lot of Black people noticed, and that's when Black people was like, "Oh no, we LSU, so whatever." Like then our Blackness came because as Black people, we often get shafted, and to invite the losing team. I think Jill Biden rescinded that invite. If I'm not mistaken, she rescinded that invite. She was like, "I'm tripping, y'all." I don't know why I said what I said. But anyway, so that was the big thing. So I feel like the whole rest of the next year, the conversations about Caitlin and Angel, well, let me clarify. I don't remember national conversations about Angel on my timeline prior to this. I remember watching them and being like, I like this team, but I don't remember people talking about them by and large on my timeline and see First Take or any of the conversation, even sports pages I see talking about them. Right. So then the next season came and LSU played Iowa again. Right. And this time Iowa won. And when Iowa won, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, Angel's post-game press conference after that loss, she was crying and she was saying how like it's a lot. She's a lot of racism, a lot of death threats, and all that type of stuff. And she just wants to play basketball. And I remember certain commentators was like, "You can't be the big bad villain, and then you got to behave. You can't have that dog in you and then cry when you lose. You can't talk crazy when you win and then cry when you lose." And Angel was talking about the racism, not the competitive nature, right? And y'all let me know, is that correct? That was after the semifinals, right? Okay. Yeah, it looks like. Okay, cool. So they was going in on Angel Reese. And she basically had said she dealt with racism the entire season, all that type of stuff. Long story short, Caitlin goes to the national championship and she loses to South Carolina. 38-0. I think they would become 39-0. Right. So let me just block some people who are annoying me. Was it the Elite Eight? Okay, my bad. Okay. So then South Carolina won. Don Staley has been on the record for praising Caitlin Clark almost at every turn. Louis Vuitton Don was like, Caitlin is the single. I remember making a video about this. Don said Caitlin is the single reason we are having a boost in women's sports. She's going to go to the WNBA, right? Caitlin was the presumptive number one pick for the WNBA. This is when I remember current WNBA, because people were saying Caitlin Clark, I'm gonna call them super fans, right? Because I think there's Caitlin Clark fans of basketball, and then there's like the super fans who are like using Caitlin Clark. This is actually how I feel. I'm gonna pause here. There is an enormous amount of people who are using Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese to push how they feel about race in America. And you can see how they feel about race in America by how they talk about Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. It's the way Black people are vilified in the media, in the news, how that translates to me directly to how people talk about and view Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. And I'm not talking about Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese themselves. I'm talking about how people, how commentators, how other people use Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese to say how they feel. And listen, as a Black man, I would even say I'm no different because I'm riding for Angel Reese for the most part. I do believe that was a flagrant foul on her. A lot of people was like, I won't even know flagrant. I do believe that foul yesterday was a flagrant foul, but we'll get to that in a second. But it's like the way Black people are policed and criminalized, it came so forward in those discussions. Even like when Kennedy Carter checked Caitlin Clark a couple weeks back, and people were like, Kennedy Clark needs to be arrested. It was assault. And it was like, we are watching a sport that has its own rules that are classified as rules in this sport. People are saying the police need to be involved in it, which essentially was a flagrant foul. I can't see that ever having happened in the WNBA in my history on a timeline ever. Kennedy Carter should be arrested for assault. And I was like, boy, what is y'all talking about? And I believe it was, I remember I was watching that game. I was like, Carter, what was you doing there? Looked like Caitlin was chirping, but, or maybe had even elbowed her, but the retaliation was bigger than what Caitlin had done. But then the media firestorm was like way blown out of proportion. It was like, and here's how Kennedy Carter was treated at other teams. Like, Draymond Green has done a lot. Draymond Green punched his own teammate, like knocked him out cold. And I don't remember seeing any article saying, this is just me, I'm not saying it didn't happen. I didn't see any article that said Draymond Green should be arrested for assault. And that was way more violent. And we talking about, if you watch the NBA, they used to be punching each other during the games. I remember Reggie Miller was fighting, obviously the Malice at the Palace. Chris Childs, two-piece Kobe, if I'm not mistaken. Like, I've seen punches thrown in actual NBA game. And this is not hockey where, you know, a certain amount of violence is a part of it. But no, I haven't seen anybody saying Draymond Green should be arrested, but it was like Kennedy Carter should be arrested. And I was like, okay, like and that's when, even though I didn't agree with Kennedy Carter, like checking Caitlin Clark, my blackness felt like, okay, now I got to defend her because y'all not finna bully her for no basketball foul, right? You could call it a flagrant 1, maybe even flagrant 2. They could have ejected her, but like arrest her, like this is wild. But as a black man, when I see people going in on black women, then it becomes, my blackness overrides the thing. I'd be like, okay, forget everything. I'm black first. And when you have been black and you've been treated a certain way in America, and you watch how black people and black women, specifically black women, are talked about, and you see that happen, then I'm like, okay, now I just got to defend them regardless, because if it's going to be all y'all versus them, then I don't even care if they're wrong. That's how I be feeling. I'd be like, nah, nigga, well, because Angel said, you know, yesterday when Angel did that flagrant foul, I was like, she was obviously going for the ball. And then, you know, people went crazy. So I'd be feeling like, okay, now, even though I thought it was a flagrant 1, I'm on her side again, not towards Caitlin Clark. Now, here's the one thing I want to say about Caitlin Clark. She was quiet on a lot of issues. And that's her right? She was like, I'm not on social media, I'm just playing basketball. I'm not on social media, I'm just playing basketball. I'm not on social media, I'm just playing basketball. And I was feeling like that's her right, but it's also a privilege, because black women, the ones that interact with you, the one in the league, they're all having to deal with questions about you on social media, as well as having to play basketball. But as of late, I'd say in the last 2 weeks, maybe 10 days, she's had some press conferences where I believe she's had some answers that were different than the way she used to answer questions. Yesterday, when she got hit in the head by Angel Reese, she could have easily said that wasn't a basketball play. She was gunning for me. And she was like, that's just a basketball play. She's going for the ball. She's a great competitor. Where her words could have added fuel to the fire, she did not do that. And then last weekend, I believe they were asking her, like, how does she feel about people using her in social media? And she was like, I don't like that, right? That was 2 times that I've seen her be like, this ain't cool, right? Now, Caitlin Clark is from Iowa. I'm not making too many presumptions on this girl because I don't know her, and I like her and I want to root for her. But that girl is from Iowa, and she's trying to sell herself. And I think a lot of black people want her to be like Paige Beckers, who is like supremely ally. She says a lot of the stuff that we want white athletes to say if they're on our side, where they go above and beyond. I don't think Caitlin Clark is going to become Paige Beckers, but she poured a little water where she could have poured gasoline. And I appreciated that from her. So let me back up to when Caitlin was about to get drafted. Caitlin was about to get drafted, and I'm going to be straight up honest. Because of Caitlin's game, I thought it would translate pretty seamlessly to the WNBA. That was a mistake. I realize that now. I thought because Caitlin Clark was shooting deep threes, she was, she was that fade to the left three that she pulling from the, not the corner, but like the left side. I thought that step back game, I thought that was going to translate. I remember watching LeBron James in high school, and then when he went to the NBA, his game translated immediately. A couple of WNBA players was like, people were saying Caitlin Clark will go to the WNBA and she gonna cook. She gonna be going for 30. Like I saw that a lot. They're going for 30 all the time, 30 all the time. She's gonna be cooking the WNBA. She's gonna bring all these eyeballs. And then Diana Taurasi and a couple of other WNBA players were like, I don't think Caitlin Clark gonna come and cook like that in the league. Y'all are underestimating the WNBA. So I was very curious, right? And I've been watching Diana Taurasi, fierce competitor since she was at UConn. And I was like, I want to see, because I want to see if I was wrong, right? And she was talking about the physicality. Now I'll just stop and say here, I went to a WNBA game and I've been watching more than I ever did in my life. It is a much more physical game than I realized. The game, I went to the Aces Liberty game on Saturday. When I tell you them refs let them play like some 80s and 90s NBA basketball, I've seen a lot of like clips and compilations of how physical the game is, how many fouls. Like them women play a very physical game. It's funny, a lot of NBA fans say the NBA is soft. They don't play physical. There's a lot of flopping. I've seen the physicality a lot of people want in the NBA. It's in the WNBA. They don't be soft. And when they go to fight and pushing, it ain't the fake NBA fights. Like they be going to play for real. I seen Kelsey Plum. She got thrown to the ground. Lainey Hamilton, I forget her first name, on the Liberty. She threw Kelsey Plum to the ground on that game. The refs, not only did they not call a flagrant foul, they didn't call a foul, period. But I'm talking about the way the screens are playing, the way like they play a very physical brand of basketball in the WNBA. I didn't know. I told you I hadn't been watching the regular season in many years. I've just been keeping up with the playoffs, but I'm keeping up like watching the final 4 or 5 minutes of key games. I'm not watching full games. I'm watching full games. And then seeing them up close, bruh, very physical. And Diana Taurasi had said Caitlin Clark's going to struggle in the WNBA because of the physicality, and we be hooping on there. And also, I will say this too. The WNBA only has 12 teams. 12 teams, 12 players. There's 144 players. So the caliber of opponent is better. I remember watching Caitlin Clark play South Carolina, and Raven Johnson, what Raven Johnson did on her in the second half of the first, probably about 3/4 of the game, Raven Johnson was D'ing her up. And people who follow the WNBA was like, there's a Raven Johnson on every single team. Caitlin Clark is going to struggle early on. And most people who said that didn't say she's never going to be good. They were just like, she's going to struggle with the physicality right out of the gate. The women are bigger and stronger than Caitlin, who, when she came into the WNBA, she had been out of college like less than 2 months. Like there wasn't even a chance to go into the weight room. Like you just played in April. I believe the national championship was in April because I was at WrestleMania. By late May, or was it May the season had started, or June? Was it May? I feel like Caitlin was playing. It was less than 3 months for sure. It might have been the next month or early June. No, it had to be May. It had to be May. No, it was May. Let's say 2 months though. And she struggled and still struggles with that physicality. Them girls coming off the screen, everybody's quicker, faster, stronger. Their recovery speed. I've seen her make a lot of turnovers. A lot of the long passes she used to get away with Iowa, they've been getting stolen a lot more. Them entry passes that I've seen her get away with thread in college, them entry passes are getting stolen, but she's getting better. Like she had her best game that I've seen yesterday. So it was like the women in the WNBA were telling you, like, we in this league, she's gonna struggle. And then everybody was saying Diana Taurasi was a hater. The WNBA is haters. And it's like, bro, like, I'm a competitive person. I'm a former mediocre athlete. If I were in the WNBA, I think I would want to play my best against Caitlin Clark too, especially if you said something. People are like, oh, she's gonna come in here and cook y'all. She's going for 40 every game, the same way she did in Iowa. I think even if I wasn't playing hard every game, I'd play hard against her. So I think she's getting a lot of people's best shots, and she struggles sometimes, and she be cooking sometimes. Like as a rookie overall, I think she's doing really well. But I think the way she's treated, sometimes the way she's reffed, but the way the media covers her is all based on how you view women and race in America, right? Cameron Brink was saying that, the WNBA, if you haven't watched it, it's a very black, very queer league. And Cameron Brink was saying, as a straight person, there's a certain amount of privilege, a straight white woman, there's a certain amount of privilege she has and power she has because of how she presents. There's a lot of masculine presenting women in the WNBA, right? And Cameron Brink was like, I'm a white, feminine presenting person. There's a certain amount of privilege that comes with either of those, but both of those, I have that, right? And she was saying she wants to basically bring everybody along. And I think a lot of times what I don't like, this is just my opinion, I don't like this whole WNBA should be grateful that Caitlin Clark is here to save the day. That's what I don't like. The league has been here for 26 years. Okay. There's been great players. The NBA, if you compare the first 26 years of the NBA and first 26 years of the WNBA, it took a long time for the NBA to catch on. And there's a chicken or egg thing. It's like the WNBA wasn't on as much, so you couldn't become a fan of it as much. You had to go out of your way to watch the WNBA in years past. I was following because, again, that was the only Storm team that was good, and I'm a fan of basketball, women's basketball included. And even me, a fan of that, I wasn't watching the regular season. And in the summers, that's the perfect time to watch a sport because I would rather watch nothing than watch baseball. So if there were WNBA games on regularly, I would have watched them. People were like, well, WNBA is not popular. Well, it can't be popular if it's not on TV. Well, why we put it on TV? Well, people can't watch it. Well, you can't watch if it's not available. What would have to have happened is specific investment in marketing at a loss to make sure that it can have success, right? That's TV partnerships and all that type of stuff, which is coming along now. Now, the same way Magic Johnson and Larry Bird's college rivalry at Indiana and Michigan State, or Indiana State and Michigan State. I can't remember where Bird went. I know it was a place in Indiana, and Magic went to Michigan State. The way their national championship was watched tremendously, and then they came into the NBA, and their rivalry continued, and that race element of it elevated the whole league. That's the same thing that's happened with Caitlin Clark. But the way Caitlin Clark is treated in the media and the way Angel Reese is treated in the media are very different. Thank you, Mr. Rosa. It is Indiana State. I thought it was Indiana State because I know he didn't play for the Hoosiers, but I couldn't remember. I think he was blue and white, and Michigan was green and white. And that's the part where I think, and listen, there's a lot of political pundits, but in my eyes, I don't see Angel Reese's characterization using her blackness as a protective element as much as I see Caitlin Clark white womanness being protected as in the media, in the pundits. It's she's the star, she's saving it, but she's also a delicate flower. Don't foul her. Don't hurt her. She is your savior. She's going to grow the game. She's going to do all these things. Like, she should be on the Olympics team. That's the thing where she didn't even say that. But it's like, there's other people who would have been on the Olympics team if that next spot was up long before Caitlin Clark would be there. And that's the thing about, yes, Gaston's World, that's America. And that's what I think is happening oftentimes in America, specifically in race-related things. People use specific things to push their narrative regardless of how they feel. I don't be thinking people are watching these games. Like yesterday when Angel Reese fouled Caitlin Clark, within 2 hours, Deadline Hollywood was tweeting an article about a flagrant foul. Deadline Hollywood is a entertainment publication. They announce movie deals, TV show, all that type of stuff. And they was talking about a flagrant foul. A CNN segment was dedicated to a flagrant foul. Never in the history of ever, even in men's sports, have I seen that. When Caitlin Clark and them lost the national championship, CNN, I believe it was CNN, they were like, Caitlin Clark loses the national championship, and a picture of her was used instead of South Carolina wins the national championship. And those choices are made in the media a lot. It was always centering and framing everything on Caitlin Clark, which is how white people are often centered and framed on everything. And as a Black person, we be getting sick of that. When people lose, you use us. That happens in England in soccer. When they lose, it's soccer's fault. It's Rashford's fault. It's whoever's Black is going to be on the cover of those newspapers when England loses, right? This happened a couple of weeks. Saka came on and played like 25 minutes of a game, but when they lost, he's on the front page of the papers. But when they win, it's Harry Maguire. It's ain't Harry Maguire. He ain't even on the team. It's Harry Kane. It's Grealish. It's whoever's the golden white person in England is always the hero. And the Black person is always vilified. And Black people, we clock that in everything. So when we see stuff, we be like, okay, so this is what we see. This is what we be talking about. It's when a white dude kills his family, the picture of him is him on a jet ski with his family. They're smiling. When a Black dude protects somebody, it's his mugshot that they use. It's former prisoner saves the day. It's his mugshot. But when the white dude's the criminal, it's him with his family, people he murdered in the picture, not his mugshot. This is the happy family. That kind of stuff happens in the media all the time. And I don't think other races notice it as much as Black people notice it. We clock that stuff all the time. So this whole Angel Reese thing, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to say this, and I don't want to say this, but I want to say this. My Blackness, I don't want to say this. I'm going to say it, though, because it's the truth, and I want to have the real conversation, like I said. My Blackness makes it hard for me to root for Caitlin because it feels like I'm rooting for the white person to come save the day. And this WNBA league was built on Black players. Right? I remember Cynthia Cooper, Cheryl Swoops, Lisa Les, Rebecca Lobo was there too. I remember all of them, but it's like the league made it through the doldrums of 26 years. And now here comes Caitlin Clark to save the day. And I'd be like, I want to root for her as a basketball player, but I can't do it at the expense of my Blackness. So I'd be wanting to tweet her, be positive stuff, but I'd be like, whoo, but I don't want to be the guy to save the day. And that's why I wanted to have the conversation, because hooping for hooping, I want to be there for you, but I don't want my words to be making it seem like I ain't there for my people first, because it's Black people, it's for Black people anyway. I'm gonna ride for them first. So I want to cheer for both of them. I want to cheer for both of them. But they're not both being treated the same way. So what I really end up doing is going harder for Angel Reese, because she's having a harder conversation and she's having a harder journey. Caitlin Clark's not dealing with a whole bunch of rape. There's not as many Black people in her comments calling her everything but a child of God the way Angel Reese is. Her comment section is not getting destroyed the way Angel Reese is. So I feel like I'd be like, nah, I got to be with Angel Reese. I got to buy her jersey. I got to go for her even more. I got to support her, because I'd be like, she's having to deal with the basketball element, and she actually transitioned really well to the league. Physically, I think she's leading the WNBA in offensive rebounds, and she might be top 5 in rebounds, period. Right. So she's having an amazing season, especially June. She's doing very well. I think she had like 6 or 7 double-doubles. And it's like, I'm going to go harder for her because she's having it harder. But I want to be like, but with the NBA, I can root for Luka or Porzingis. I never feel like I have to enter my Blackness in those conversations. I can say Luka had a great game, Luka had a terrible game. I never feel nothing, because I don't feel like LeBron's getting treated one way on the race account if it's not like a racial thing. Like when there's something happening in Black America, LeBron's going to have something different than Luka. But basketball-wise, I can just focus on the basketball element, where because of race, sexuality, right? That's another big part of intersectionality. affects the WNBA in a way it does not affect the NBA. You got a lot of Black queer women who present masculine, and then the media is harsher on them. They're harsh on Black women just for being Black women. They're harsh on gay women for being gay, but you Black and gay, and now you're the person who's jealous of a white woman, then it'd be like, nah, I got to be with the Black folks and I got to be with the gay folk because they getting killed on both ends. And that's the part where I'd be like, as a Black person, I got to go with my people. And I don't know how, double minority. I don't know how we can, I agree with this too. Caitlin Clark's silence on the subject has made her complicit. I agree. And maybe she feels like, I wish I could just play basketball. But listen, it's a privilege that you can say, I don't have to focus on all that, because other people do have to focus on all that. So it feels like somebody in her team was like, listen, girl, I know we told you to say this, but you can't say this no more. You ain't got to be Paige, but you can't say you oblivious to everything, because it's just not social media. It's in the regular media. And Caitlin's a young kid. She's Gen Z. I just don't believe nobody who's Gen Z ain't on social media. She might not be on the timeline like we be on the timeline, but I just have a hard time believing she don't know nothing that's happening, because your teammates is tweeting about it. Dejanay Carrington is a girl, and forgive me, I don't know the particulars, but her girl is Nalissa, if I'm not mistaken, Nalissa Smith. Am I wrong, y'all? So I feel like if your girl is talking, I don't think with all them Black women on your team, the way them racist fans be going on Aaliyah Boston, when Aaliyah Boston missed that thing and they go in her comments, it's like, if you're not on social media, I don't believe your teammates ain't like, now, girl, come on, Caitlin. You got to say something. I just can't believe you just live in a vacuum. You don't have no phone. You don't know nothing that's happening in the world when you are the topic of, listen, the WNBA is on par with any other sport as far as visibility right now. Something I haven't seen since the league's inception. Covered on First Take, talking heads, political people in the comments, on the main timeline on Twitter. So I'm like, how you don't know everything? Maybe you don't want to speak on it. Maybe that's your team's answer. But I don't believe that you don't know anything. And if you really, really don't know anything, it's a privilege and you exist in a bubble, because your teammates, the other Black women on the Fever, be dealing with it. They live in Indiana too. So that's my thing. Like, yeah. So this is the thing. I'm with you, Jay. She can't do nothing about social media. And I'm not even saying we're mad at her, but I am saying it's the same way Beyonce and Taylor Swift fans go at each other, and Beyonce and Taylor Swift could be like, y'all chill, or let's take a picture together, and then the noise will calm. The way she's handled the post-game interviews and some of these interviews on the last 2 weeks has shown me she's at least aware and her answers are changing. If she continues on that path, I think it'll calm down. Let me say, if she come out and talk like Paige, I'm going to tell you this straight up and down. If she were to come out and speak about these issues the way Paige does, I guarantee you the conservative media would not have the same talking points. They would be calling her woke. And I'm not saying she has to. I'm not. But if she did have some of the same speaking points that Paige be talking about, that Cameron Brink be talking about, and then people couldn't use her to make their point the same way because her words would be incongruent with their words, I bet you we'd be talking about basketball for basketball. I bet you we'd be talking about basketball for basketball if she started speaking like that. She's done a little bit over the last 10 days. If she did more, they'd be like, Caitlin's gone woke. The woke mob has gone to her. Black people would have pressured her. It'd be a different conversation. And I'm not even saying she has to do that, but I'm saying they wouldn't be able to use it. When she was silent, people could assume, well, if you ain't saying nothing, then I'm going to go ahead and jump out here and saying this is what you said. But if you don't say it, but when you do say, that's actually not cool. Sometimes that's all you got to do is say it's not cool. So why can't CC just be CC? Because, nigga, it don't work like that. Because Angel can't just be Angel. That's why. And that's why. Maybe listen, I agree with you. Caitlin Clark don't have to listen to me at all. She don't know who Kev on stage is. He didn't make Complex's list of 20 top 20 funny internet comedians. Okay? All I'm saying is people can crusade on her behalf, and she could quell that if she wants to. If she doesn't want to, that's fine. But then the conversations are going to be different. That's all I'm saying. The woman is a full-grown adult woman. She can do whatever she want to do. But how you choose to handle situations is how people are going to see how you handle situations, right? And I want to root for her on basketball. She is a great basketball player. I really enjoy her style. She's an amazing shooter, scorer, but she's also equally adept as a playmaker. The last couple games, especially yesterday, her and Aaliyah Boston, I think that's going to be a good little 1-2. Aaliyah been closing games pretty well in the last 3 or 4 games that I've seen. She struggled early on closing games, but she's been playing well. And I've been watching her because she was in the South Carolina. You know, I'm following Dawn Staley. I've been a fan of Dawn Staley since she was on Martin, WNBA's inception. So I want her to win too. But her teammates can also use Caitlin's help. When you got that much power just because of who you are, how you handle it is representative of who you are, right? As a Black male, Christian, married, heterosexual, there's a certain amount of power I have inherently, right? Because of who I am, because I'm a man, because I'm straight, because I have influence. There's a certain amount of power I have inherently. I can choose to do with that power whatever I want. And people can choose to see how I use that power however they want, right? When I wasn't putting no Black women on, people can say Kev's cool, but he don't really look out for Black women. And for a long time, that was true, right? It wasn't until the pandemic and I learned about intersectionality that I was like, okay, I got to start using my power to look out for Black women, right? That's when I hired Angel. That's when I took Angel on tour, hired Mel Mitchell and took her on tour with me. When I started doing Keep Your Distance, I made sure to get 2 or 3 Black women on each time. I don't have to do that. But how I use my power is how people are going to see me. What do I do with my influence? When I can say, yo, put this person on, and that's a Black woman or a Black man, there's nothing wrong with how I do it. But people can see how I move with how I respond. And if I say it's for Black people anyway, and I'm not looking out for any Black women, I don't have to be wrong about that. But people can say, well, you know, he's just looking out for his people only. Right? And that's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. And I like Caitlin. I really do. I just want to be able to like her more in public. But the way things are going now, I got to go big Angel Reese. And here's something like, listen, I think here's an example of Caitlin could have done something for her team and it take the wrong way. Caitlin got invited to Saturday Night Live. And people were upset why you didn't invite South Carolina. I'm with you on that. When Caitlin got invited, she said, all my teammates come with me, Black women included. They get to come. She's vilified, but anybody. She's technically just saying everybody eats B. But because people didn't think she deserved to be there, that whole Saturday Night Live is a negative knock on her. That part I feel like is a little unfair. Because although Saturday Night Live could have invited South Carolina, they going with the people that they know who watches Saturday Night Live more than anybody is going to be gravitating towards that girl. And her deciding to bring her team, that's not a bad thing to me. But it's misconstrued in a way. And listen, you can say what you want. America is still predominantly white. So and this is an undisputable fact. America is predominantly white. And Caitlin Clark is the #1 scorer of all time, men or women, in Division I basketball history. She is the biggest star. In college, she was the biggest star. Even though she didn't win a championship, she was still the biggest star. Immediately upon entry to the WNBA, before she played a game, she was automatically one of the biggest stars. Very similar to LeBron James. Remember how LeBron James' team talked about him? There's a clip of Darius Miles, Carlos Boozer, Ricky Davis. They was talking about LeBron like he gonna be cool. He's just gonna be a teammate. he just gonna be one of the good people. No, sir. He's going to go for 28 and 9 in his first game. He's gonna be an all-star in year 2. Like, let's stop it. So that's indisputable. The Fever, I don't remember ever seeing a Fever game on. And they got like 20 or 30 nationally televised games this season, selling out. That's star power. That's indisputable. And everybody does benefit from her winning. But I find it interesting. The same people who say DEI, you got to get the best person regardless of skin color. A lot of those same people, when it came to Caitlin Clark not making the Olympic team, that same ideology was not applied to her. Nobody was arguing that she was one of the 12 best people. Even her people were not arguing that she's one of the 12 best players. They're saying, well, because of her popularity, she should be included. Popularity, skin color, replace those two. Well, now that you see, when it's a black person who is not even saying take me because I'm more popular, they're saying consider me, I'm probably better. That's a DEI hire. If anybody looks out for black people and just includes them in the conversation and is not choosing a white person first, that's DEI, that's affirmative action. But when you can't argue that she's better than anybody, and people were saying, well, she's better than Diana Taurasi, I wouldn't even give you that. And even if she was better, she's not experienced on the international stage. She's not a veteran. When you're building a team, you need veteran leadership. You need international experience. If you watch the men's NBA, the men's international teams, when they just throw anybody out there and they don't have the right mix of people, they don't win gold all the time. So when you're building a team, you need the right pieces. And sometimes that's veteran leadership and people who've been there, who understand how international games go, right? So you couldn't argue if she's one of the top 12. Even if you said she's better than Diana Taurasi, I would disagree with you. And even if she was better, I would disagree that she's the player to replace somebody, because if it wasn't Diana Taurasi, it could have been a lot of people before it got to Caitlin. And Caitlin was like, I get it. And people were like, nah, man, put Caitlin on there to grow the sport. And I just thought that was interesting because it's the Olympics. And we, as a people, even people who have issues with America, we going to turn on them Olympics and watch everything, every sport. I've watched synchronized swimming. It's one of my favorite Olympic sports. I watch curling. You grow in the game. And the Olympic Games is not even the WNBA. So watching the Olympics, I don't even know how much that would directly translate to the WNBA, because the Olympics are free on NBC. WNBA is not free and very rarely on NBC, ABC. So, yeah. So, yeah, I think it's really interesting way to use athletes as a way to talk about America, because it's very obvious how those two women and how the world sees those two women in America is used to talk about America and how you see black women. I've said this and I've seen this said a lot. How you talk about the WNBA, specifically Angel and Caitlin, is often very reflective of how you see those type of women in your community, period. So, yeah, Caitlin is unequivocally the bigger star. However, part of the reason Caitlin is a big star is because of her interactions with Angel Reese. Angel Reese and this moment is what catapulted that conversation to a national stage. Caitlin was already the bigger star. She's probably been a bigger star than Angel their entire career. However, a lot of people were talking about Caitlin because of her interaction with Angel. And to act like that's not true is just disingenuous to Angel Reese. Angel Reese is the foil. If Caitlin Clark is the protective white angel, Angel Reese is being positioned as her foil, the braggadocious physical black woman. We must protect Caitlin from her. I'm not saying Caitlin is doing this. I'm talking about the way people are framing them. So that race plus rivalry equals ratings. And Angel Reese is not backing down from the media. She's taking it in stride. She talks a lot of trash, but Caitlin does too. I just wish they both could talk trash and it'd be talked about the same way. That's all I'm saying. Yes, Lonnie, a lot of it became racially motivated. Batman needs the Joker. That's all I'm saying. So it's Magic and Bird 2.0. Magic was Bird was the great white hype, the great white hope. Magic was he's the jive turkey from Michigan. Look at Magic. He's so cool. He's in LA. Black people being called flashy and all that stuff. Look at his smile. Look at the flash. And Larry Bird's just a hardworking, red-blooded American from Indiana. He just wants to go and play basketball and be a family man. He wants to drink a beer. That is how people, white men and black men, were characterized in America as well. Larry Bird and Magic Johnson were just things to put those signals on top. We could project the way America would. Larry Bird don't have the fur coat. He's not smiling for the cameras. He's not glitzing glamour. He's an everyday working red-blooded American in Boston. Like, you couldn't have had it better. This regular everyday guy in Boston versus this braggadocious, flashy guy in LA. I didn't even know Bird had a kid out of marriage till this moment. Literally until this moment in time. Didn't even know that. So anyway, and I'm not talking about this. The last time I said this, people were like, Angel Reese is nowhere near as good as Magic. I'm not saying that. Come on, y'all. You right there. Okay? You right there. Now make the leap with me. I'm not talking about their on the court abilities. I'm talking about how they are framed as people. That's all I'm saying. I feel better. I don't know that this changed anything, but I really did want to have the conversation. I really did. Oh, yeah. We can't compare the teams for sure. I can't find that comment. Somebody said we compare the teams. Yeah, we can't compare the teams. The Lakers had Kareem Abdul-Jabbar at the time. The Celtics had already won all the and the Fever and the Sky are both at the bottom of the WNBA. If I'm not mistaken, they're like 8th and 9th out of 12. If I'm not mistaken, only the Mystics. I don't know everybody who's playing worse than them, but they are at the bottom. But I'm talking about how they. Okay, I'm repeating myself. Well, it's been fun. I enjoyed this. I hope you guys have a great day. Celtics versus Mavs tonight. This NBA Finals ain't been finaling the way they finaled in the past. I don't know what it is. This is an elimination game, and I just feel like it ain't hitting like the finals have hit before. I don't know what it is. I'm excited. I like, Luka. Will they come back? Will they extend the series? But something about this finals, I'm just like, I don't know. The Mavs could come. I think I might get excited if the Mavs came back and forced a game 7. But I felt like this series was over for a while. So I just feel like it ain't been high. But anyway, God bless y'all. God keep y'all. Hope you have an amazing day. If not, I hope you have a good one. Just okay day. Peace.